I'm Chef Dominique Leach from Chicago. I own a restaurant called Lexington Betty Smokehouse here on the South Side. I've been a chef for about 20 years, conquering the business and being a leader in my industry. If you haven't checked out my restaurant, please come by. We're in the Pullman neighborhood. But first, coffee.
You are now watching But First Coffee.
Going live in 3, 2.
When I was in high school, I couldn't think about anything else that I was interested in besides basketball. And a counselor told me, well, you know, Chicago has some of the best culinary schools in the country. And I was intrigued to find that out. So I went on a tour to visit a couple of them, and I was pretty sure that's what I wanted to do at the time anyway. And so I picked one out of the two and just kind of jumped head first into it and pursued my career as a chef.
You've been dominating ever since.
Well, I wasn't always dominating.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so what did that process look like? Because many people think even going into that, okay, am I going to work in that field as a chef for a restaurant, or am I going to be on my own? So what did your path look like?
For a long time, I cooked at different facilities, different establishments. I knew it was important to kind of pinch off of experienced chefs to kind of hone my experience to make me a great chef. So I worked at places like Laurie's Prime Rib before they closed. I spent a lot of time at the Renaissance Hotel. That was my first cook job out of culinary school. So to get a line cook job out of culinary school is kind of a big deal, because typically we start off as prep cooks or just kind of doing the odd jobs around the kitchen.
Is usually multiple people in that type of size of a restaurant?
Yeah, the Renaissance lunch service was like, sometimes we would do like a couple hundred covers. It was right in the Loop downtown area. It was right outside of the theater district. So this was a relatively busy hotel. And it was pretty impressive to get a line cook job right out of culinary school at a place like this. But like I said, I did my part by working at a lot of establishments, Standard Club, Spiaggia. I was there when they got a Michelin star, first James Beard Award.
Because of you.
And that was a really special time because the chef owner, Tony Mantuano, had written a book, and Obama mentioned in his book that it was his favorite restaurant, and so we would host them often. And my last job was at the Four Seasons Hotel and a few places in between those, but I was pretty sure by the time I got to the Four Seasons that I wanted to step out on my own and create something to make my own legacy.
Now, was entrepreneurship what you thought it would be, or you like, oh, I just know I like to be in charge?
I think entrepreneurship is a lot of what I thought it would be. I didn't think at this point in my career I would still have to be as hands-on as I have to be at times in my restaurant.
Do you feel you still have to, or do you just prefer?
That's a good question. I, like, as a business owner, I know I pay attention to the reviews we're getting, and I find that the best reviews come from me being in the space and me being able to be personable. Sometimes I can be in the space and not be personable. Sometimes people take it a little personal when I can't engage them in conversation. But when I'm in chef mode, I'm really focused and trying to be assertive. And a lot of times I have a long list of things to do at the beginning of the day. So I'm just trying to knock a bunch of those tasks out so I can get to a point where I can just like give myself some time.
Start delegating.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
No, I certainly do some delegating.
Okay.
There are just some things that are best left for me to do because I'm gonna do it best.
Okay. Now, does it make a difference in how the food tastes? I always wanted to know that, of who's in, like, if you're there hands-on or if you have already, passed it on to someone else.
If I've done my job by training efficiently, then the food should taste the same whether I'm there or not. Now, me being there doesn't mean I'm necessarily cooking.
Okay, you're just overseeing.
I'm overseeing. I handle all of our caterings, the communications in terms of catering.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of stuff that needs to be handled outside of the restaurant. I kind of think of my career as Chef Dominique Leach different from the restaurant because it consists of a lot of appearances, doing interviews like these, traveling and doing speaking engagements. Like I have to go out of town twice next week, and that's smack down in the middle of the dinner series I have with Chef Maya Camille.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the series. Explain to more about the series you have.
So I established a series called the Southside Friends series, where I've invited other chefs that have establishments on the South Side, because I feel like there has been times where Southside, not specifically the chefs, but our restaurants have been left out of a lot of the conversations. And
True.
so this is my way of like celebrating the South Side or anything south of Roosevelt.
Okay.
Because, I see like a lot of the awards are being handed out and recognitions, which is...
It's politics, right?
It's certainly politics, and it's by design. It is to play with our heads and our employees, and I can go deep into that, but being black in Chicago or just America is not easy, and so a lot of the hardship is because it's by design to keep us where we are for the most case. And so it's our job to elevate our voices and celebrate where we have or how far we have come. And so, we have a responsibility. I have staff, and so I want to show them like, hey, us showing up for work every day, it's much more than just that.
Just clocking in.
It's being on time. It's being invited to these events outside of our communities where, you look around the room and there's not a lot of people that look like us. So we're representation for our culture, and we have a responsibility to show up in a bold and professional way.
So you speak more almost about branding than most chefs or restaurant owners think about. So is that anywhere like in a training part of your staff? Because that's an important part of having a good product as well. Yeah,
well, I have a lot of brands, and so it starts with me. My representation is going to be heard first. A lot of times, if you come to my restaurant and the macaroni is not good, you're going to think about me first.
And what did she do to the macaroni?
Or if you go to the grocery store and buy one of my products and you don't like it, you're going to think about me first. And so I know it starts and ends with me. And so I have to have a supporting cast almost around me to understand the importance of being the best.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, because that means you care a lot about the customer and even the finished product, and hey, where's my legacy going?
Exactly.
So it seems as if you're moving fast, but we see that you've taken many steps to perfect it.
Yeah.
And so now I'm hearing you're going overseas. Like, what is this travel going to be about and connecting to our roots a little better?
Well, I was just recently invited to Lagos, Nigeria for their food and drink fest, similar to a food and wine fest that we would have here in America.
Okay.
And I'll be doing a pitmaster master class for 500 people in a huge auditorium. I'll have the help of the culinary school there, and that's why we show up in the magnitude that we do, because
500 is a lot.
500 is a lot, but these are opportunities that are waiting for us, and a lot of times, we don't work hard to necessarily get these things, but people everywhere are paying attention, and we want to be that representation for the culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are these invites often? Do you find yourself like, okay, if I'm not invited there, maybe I should create something in another space or another country that people like me can still flock to?
Yeah, these invites are often, or I'll go, like I have to, I'm the keynote speaker at a culinary school graduation on the 28th of this month.
Okay.
Next week also I travel to Southern Illinois to just do an appearance with the Black student body at the Illinois University down there. And so yeah, these opportunities come up, but yeah, there are times where I feel like there's a void that needs to be filled. So you'll see me like have events like in Pullman, for example. You know, we watch Pullman in the media and we see it moving along so far, but a lot of times the communities around Pullman don't feel like they're included in kind of the gentrification that's going on in the area.
Majorly.
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty fast. But I'm the only independent owned restaurant in that like new corridor that's been built between like Walmart and the Culver's strip malls.
Okay.
And you know, since I've been there, Wingstop, Culver's, now we have Chick-fil-A, Jimmy John's.
They see that they was missing
Dunkin'
out
Donuts.
on those dollars you've been getting.
Yeah, Chipotle is opening like any day now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, a lot of movement over there. But I think it says a lot that we're still standing and we're independent owned. You know, we have yet to get like one of those big city grants, and we Black, so we ain't getting no loans.
It's coming. It's coming. Since what would be something you specialize in? Like if, like you mentioned macaroni, if it wasn't good, but what is something that you know that you always want to put your sauce on that you have created?
Something that I've created.
Well, I mean, your own recipe to like a dish that's already that you like. Well, that's one thing I mastered, because you was talking about even doing the pit masters.
The master class? Yeah, well, I like to think of myself as a chef with a barbecue restaurant.
Okay.
You know, when I created Lexington Betty Smokehouse, it was for the legacy, it was for the culture. But I'm well versed in all types of cuisines, and probably my favorite to dabble in is, I would say, Italian for the most part. My time at Spiaggia that I mentioned was my greatest culinary experience, because it just kind of taught me about food. It made me look at it from a different aspect.
Okay.
Like, you know, I probably graduated from being a cook to a chef at
that place. Okay. Yeah. And is it because of the chefs and the training they had there?
Well,
just the environment?
It was very intense. The environment wasn't necessarily something I would recommend for a lot of people. And a lot of times I notice people of our culture don't thrive in those spaces because they're not built for us.
Okay.
You know, the staff or your coworkers are trying to be intimidating on purpose. You know,
and we don't respond to intimidation the same
but
way.
You know, I learned, no, we don't respond to intimidation. It's certainly not the type of intimidation I've had to go through.
Gosh.
But I learned a little Spanish and, you know, proved myself. And, you know, it comes with respect in some areas, not always all of them, but you hold your head high and do your job with confidence and kind of soak in all of the information. And, you know, you eventually learn that you don't need validation from other people.
Now, that's a whole word right there. So if you had a quote that kind of took you to one project to the next, or you find yourself, okay, today is not going how I planned, let me remember this, what would that be?
Prove them wrong.
Okay. I like that. That's definitely putting a stamp on it. Plus, you don't need the validation.
Don't need the validation.
Even knowing that, I know it seems like maybe the generations that are coming up, you know, they blame maybe technology or different things are gauged and what they feel like they need to prove themselves on. So what kind of advice would you give or let someone know entering that field about pivoting that way and what they need to deal with?
In the culinary field?
Yes.
Oh. My advice to anybody going into the culinary industry would be to work at several different establishments and just be a sponge and soak up as much information that you can, and, you know, take something from each chef that you work under, because all of them are going to be different. And I think ultimately that'll, you know, help you decide what type of chef you want to be and what route you want to take with your career. Okay.
And knowing that, even the things you have been applying to your business as a whole, what kind of legacy did you want to leave? Even if it's not just with the restaurant, where does Chef Dominique's legacy go?
Man, I still see, so much more on the horizon. But I think the most important thing is I'm in a space that I'd never seen for myself as a kid. And so, I named the restaurant after my grandmother, Betty King from Lexington, Mississippi. And I did that because I felt like in my life I hadn't seen her celebrated in the capacity that she should be celebrated. And so, she'll be 90 in May.
And she's still here.
She's still here.
Thank God.
Thank God. And she's very proud of me. And what I realized that her name has gotten me to this point, but I'll have to carry it on. And so ultimately, the conversation shifts, but, I just went through casting for a show yesterday.
Okay.
And, a lot of the conversation is like, well, what kind of barbecue is in Chicago? And it's so I boldly said on the show, after I win this show, I want the conversation to be done about what kind of barbecue is in Chicago. And I want my legacy to be a part of that. You know how like Limbs has been there for 60 years. I'm not saying I want to be standing for 60 years, but like today, if I can concentrate on my legacy, I think that you cannot talk about barbecue in the city of Chicago without talking about Lexington Betty Smokehouse. Even the Food Network said I'm arguably in charge of putting barbecue on the map in the Midwest. So.
Okay. And you don't need no validation for it.
I certainly don't. But they said it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I wish you nothing but success. I think that you see it, and we just gotta wait till you say, okay, it's your turn to see it. Because I don't feel like you are stopping anytime soon. So thank you.